Seeking victory, breath mints, and souls, this is your look at the new McFarlane Toys Fortnite Big Mouth. Big Mouth is an epic outfit that can be purchased in the item shop for 1,500 V-Bucks. He is part of the Fearsome Freaks set. Before we open and say, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how big Big Mouth is. While I'm getting these calculations in order, I'd like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys who provided this sample of Fortnite Big Mouth that we're having a look at in this review. If you're in the market of picking this one up for yourself, Big Mouth stands at 7.8 inches in height. And switching that to centimeters, then the figure's almost 20 centimeters, 19.9 to be exact. The figure gets a fair bit of accessories. Let's have a look at those right now. Starting first with the display stand. The stand itself is the same style of stand. Wow, I just said a whole bunch of S's in a row there. It's the same style of stand that we saw with all the other Fortnite releases, so they haven't changed really anything. What they have changed, though, is with the newer releases like the Mortal Kombat and the DC Multiverse figures, it gives you quite a smaller stand, as you can see right there. I mean, it gets lost inside the larger stand of these Fortnites. And I kind of like these because it gives you a lot more footprint space to move and navigate your feet around. So if you want to put them in a little bit more creative of a pose, you don't have the limitations. Not necessarily that you have limitations here, but I just like the fact that you can still have a figure sort of in a boundary of a display stand. I may have mentioned this before, but with the pegs being where they're placed and the Fortnite being etched into the plastic straight like this, it sort of looks like a bit of a somber face, like the stand is really sad. Don't be down. Don't be down, chum. It's quite all right. I say don't be down, and then ultimately I'm just going to put the display stand down. So we do get that. The other thing that comes included with Big Mouth is his bow and arrow. Now, you'll see that the bow and arrow are attached. They're joined at the seams, literally the molded seams. There's no way to remove these. I'm sort of two schools when it comes to this. Sometimes I do like where the arrow is a separate piece from the bow, because if you want to display it, sometimes you just like to display the bow by itself. But then the problem that comes with that is if you've got the arrow as a separate piece, it's sometimes really hard to line up a pose with the figure where it actually looks like he's got the arrow resting on the bow. You know, usually the arrow's like up here, you can't quite get it leveled. So in this case, I kind of appreciate more the fact that they would have just taken the time and kept it as one piece. It also means there's less likely to break the strap here, the back string of the bow, if this was just, again, a separate piece. The coloring is kept generally just to black, but there are still accents done in the red on the end of the arrow, and there's red around the handle area and the ends of this as well. Some nice silver there as well. The arrow and bow don't have any place to attach to the figure, unlike one other accessory that we're going to be looking at in a second. This sort of just is relegated to his hands. And probably when it comes to displaying the figure for myself, what I'm going to be doing, I'm probably going to be putting the bow and arrow in his one hand, and then in the other hand, I'm going to be putting this. This is his shovel. The shovel is quite considerably spiked. If you are worrisome, though, that it's going to draw blood, it doesn't. I mean, it leaves an impression when you put it against your skin. But, I mean, it's not sharp and pointy to the touch, although the bottom areas of the handle, a little bit more prickly. I do like the detailing on the eye there, that they put it on the center of the shovel. I mean, I would love to see a larger version of this, like something you would go to see at Spirit Halloween. Although I gotta think, they probably would really, really have to make these soft and foamy for the risk that Billy is swinging around his shovel in the household and hits his poor sister. The molding looks like it's been done in black plastic, and then on top of it is where they've then added the dark gunmetal silver to both ends here, as you can see. I really do like the eye. I think that's a nice touch. I'm gonna put that also in his other hand. And then the last thing he comes included with is the Council of Frogs. This is his back bling. And how does it attach to his back? Well, it attaches to his back via this peg located here. There's really no other place that you can put this. I suppose, if anything, you could put the Council of Frogs in his hand as well, like that. But really the intended purpose, if you spin the figure around, seeing the one frog for a second, On the very back there, there's a peg hole. You just take the peg, fits it into the hole, couldn't be any bit easier than that, just sort of wiggle it in place. And there's the Council of Frogs located on his back. I like that touch. I mean, obviously, they kept this as a separate piece. I guess the idea is you can take this off if you wanted to. Probably made things a lot easier as well when you had it actually in the packaging. That being said, let's get a closer look at Big Mouth, and what a fun-looking figure. I've stated on countless times already, I don't really play Fortnite too much, but I do like the figures. They're very creative and each different from the last. And this one definitely has some very interesting looking elements to it. I mean, looking at it, it kind of gives me a bit of a Venom vibe. I'm sure anybody looking at it probably thinks a little bit of Venom, right to the fact that it does have the tongue sticking out. A nice touch on their part as well, that they added a bit of a sheen coat right there. No, not Charlie's sheen, but a clear coat sheen to it. So it makes it look like the tongue's a little on the wet side. And the thing I didn't actually realize, though, was that the tongue is articulated. They've actually put that in what looks, I'm guessing, to be a ball joint and allows the tongue to hinge back and forth and up and down. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that when we look at the articulation. Noted that also as well is that there's the little air holes on the bottom here, which tends to be a telltale sign that the tongue then would be a wire frame. And you know, I've honestly tried moving this back and forth, and I don't have the easiest of time actually getting this to bend. One thing that you probably did see, though, is as I did bend it, I had a little bit of that wire sticking out the top of the tongue. So I think I'm probably going to abandon the idea of trying to bend this, even though the air holes are telling me there's something working in there. I think I'm going to just avoid it at all costs because I just don't want to damage the tongue, accidentally spear it with the wire that's on the inside. I like the airbrushing, a little dry brushing it probably is, of the purple that they've added to the surface of the tongue. And even like right to the back of its mouth, you can see there's even tonsils. There you go. Now you can see it. Nice work on the interior, on the roof of the mouth as well. And again, nice sculpting on the teeth also. I like that the teeth have a real discoloration to them. They've added like a gloss of this goopy looking yellow, just really griming up those teeth. I definitely would suggest going to a dentist sooner rather than later. The discoloration on the gums is also a really nice touch. And I like the way it just comes from its hood, as it's all one piece. The texturing also on the hood is really a nice touch too. You've got this cross-hatching of sculpt, as you can see right there, with little tears and rips that they put to the material itself. On the back, that's what it looks like. I really do like this, just this little additional point on the end. I did notice, like, when feeling the head, while it doesn't have a lot of give to it necessarily, I do feel like the head is a little bit more of like a rubbery plastic. You'll know if you pick this figure up for yourself. The rest of the plastic feels normal plastic, but definitely up here, it feels like it's a little bit more like a rubbery material that they used. Looking at the rest of the body, we've got some bones there. We've got little vials, little worms, those nice little touches. And of course, you have one extra frog there. Now, while the council can be removed, this one frog, from what I can see, doesn't have any way to remove it. Removing it would only really involve ripping it from the strap and then getting really upset that you did that. And I don't want to encourage the idea that you can rip this off because I would really just keep it in place. A nice touch also is by having the teeth continue down. I mean, this is all still based on really the sculpting, the design of the character from the game. So, I mean, really, it's just the fact that McFarlane Toys did a great job of continuing the trend of bringing those teeth down further on its torso. I like sort of the way that the jacket is barely holding on. This is also softer rubber. Be careful when you're pulling this away, because I do feel like these little staples would free themselves. Moving a little further down on the figure, we got some additional little vials on either side. There's some nice different colors of green, kind of a dark purple, and this sort of off pink color. It doesn't have anything on this side, and then he's got these Buccaneer-style boots with two tones of black, this semi-gloss black, and then a more shinier black along the boot cut. Interesting thing, though, is that they used the pegs. Let me just move the feet forward. There we go, so you can see it. Interesting is that they used the same coloring of plastic that they used up here. Instead of going a semi-gloss black like they did on the top and the rest of the boot, they actually go this color. I kind of wish that they would have used this color of plastic for the joint, just so you wouldn't see it as much. Checking out now the figure's articulation, it is pretty much safe to say that there's no head articulation. a lot of it just gets sacrificed by the fact that they put the sculpt that they did. And I don't really feel like it has to have head articulation. I mean, when you get a head sculpt looking like this, why would you then argue that it needs to have head articulation? Because obviously they would have to cut it right here. And I don't think, I mean, I would rather in this case choose this sculpt over the posability on this figure, at least on this area right here. We've already looked at the tongue. The tongue does have a ball joint. It moves back and forth, up and down. I feel sort of uncomfortable the fact I'm grabbing this creature from its tongue. But anyways, it does have tongue articulation. We already sort of looked at the fact that it has have the wire frame, but I mean, I would just probably not promote the idea of bending that, just because I don't feel like it's very hard to kind of get in there. And again, as you already saw, it sort of causes that one wire to poke its way through, and I really don't want to do any more of that. The shoulders, like with all the other McFarlane releases, have a cup joint. In other words, what it is when on the back of the figure, I don't know if you can see it or not, this whole socket area moves out when it comes to the arm. You can even see it when it moves. I think you see it a little bit more when I move the arm up and down. He's got this little extra socket joint. That seems to be the case on all of McFarlane's releases as of late. In addition to that, the arm does move forward, does move back. There you go. Now you can really see that socket joint working. Has a swivel in the biceps, so the biceps moves all the way around. It does have a very nice double hinge joint on the elbow. And in addition to that, Big Mouth also has the hand that rotates all the way around and hinging back and forth. Is he wearing fingerless gloves? I think those are actually fingernails. But fingerless gloves would certainly be awesome. I'm all about fingerless gloves. The upper torso is on a ball joint, so you can do this with the figure. In addition to that, he does have our leg articulation, using the same standard socket joint, same ratcheted joint, I should say, as the other McFarlane releases. Legs very comfortably move forward, very comfortably move back. And because it does really work a lot by having this seam open in the middle, does mean that you can then move the legs a little bit more than I think you could if this was just closed shut. There is no swivel at the top of the thigh. However, it does have a double hinge on the knee. Got a nice ratchet joint going on there. I don't even think it's actually even a ratchet joint. I mean, it sounds like it is. I mean, if you look at the back of it, it doesn't look like there's any ratcheting happening. And yet when I'm moving the leg, I don't know if you can hear it or not, it does seem, I think it's just the way it's pegged. I mean, there's no ratchet, but the legs feel good and tight when it comes to the joints. So that's good. There's no swivel, no articulation here on the boots, but the feet do hinge forward and back and forth. And he does also have toe articulation. It's such a fun figure again. Even if you don't play the Fortnites, I think in all the time and hours I can combine for my Fortnite time, it probably adds up to be about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So I really haven't gotten knee deep into the game, but I do like the designs of these characters. And I really like the fact that McFarlane Toys is producing figures like this, because how often do you get a figure that looks like this? It doesn't mean it has to be attached where you have to know a whole lot about Fortnite or play Fortnite. You can just really find appreciation for the sculpting of these figures. And that's certainly something that I do. I really, really like the design of Big Mouth, just for the fact he's just one big giant mouth full of gnarly looking teeth and a big slimy tongue sticking out. Big Mouth has some bold sculpt elements to it, primarily in the mouth. And again, I'm not really disappointed the fact that it doesn't have head articulation. Let that be the one thing on its posability that suffers in favor of a great-looking sculpt. These big, jagged teeth, not to mention the big, giant tongue, really adds to the overall appeal of this figure. Guaranteed, if you have this in your collection, you're going to have friends coming over, and they're not going to be asking necessarily, oh, do you play Fortnite? They're going to be saying, hey, that's a pretty cool looking figure. And that's the one thing that's consistent with the Fortnite designs. They are fun designed characters that translate extremely well to figure form. And it's nice to see that McFarlane Toys is continuing to release all these different character skins in plastic form, because you then can put them on display. You don't have to know the game necessarily. You just can find appreciation in the sculpting of the figure. I like the idea of just putting this on display. It's a big, giant, masked mouth with a big, giant tongue, and he's got frogs on his body. That's all it needs to have. Oh, and he has a spiky shovel as well. But it's such a great looking, fun figure to go along with the rest of the fun Fortnite figures that McFarlane Toys continues to put out. A big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys who took the time and provided the sample that we had a look at here in this review for Big Mouth. Let me know down below in the comments section if you play Fortnite yourself, or just on the character level of it, what do you guys think of the design of Big Mouth? He's really fun, and I'm looking forward to putting this one on my shelf. If you're new to this channel and liking the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below, and of course, turning that bell notification on. It's your friendly reminder to know when new videos are popping up onto this channel. In addition to that, I can, of course, throw it out to the wind in case anybody is listening. Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you'll find videos popping up on this channel. Wait a minute, says the new guy in town. You mean to tell me you do 2 videos a day? You mean to tell me you're doing this 5 times a week? I sure am. You mean to tell me that that's 10 videos a week? Simple math. Yes, 10 videos a week, 2 videos a day, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going to be having a look at a whole bunch of McFarlane toy reviews lined up and coming your way, so keep, as always, those peepers peeled. And thanks for watching as you always do, guys. I'll see you next time.